There it goes.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear now. Thank you.
Perfect.
And I would like to sign up to speak, please.
To speak. Okay.
Yeah, if you just want your hand up online.
You see it? You see it yet? Okay.
I can't do it because it wouldn't allow me to go on Zoom. I could only use your conference call dial-in this evening.
All right, let's call the board workshop to order, shall we? We do have someone who wants to speak before we get started.
You do online anyway.
Okay, whoever that is.
Okay, hi. This is Claire Labrudery, 517 Long Meadow Street, owner since 1999. I wanted to say that there's still some materially confusing, misleading bits of information about the true cost of the capital assessment out there that I would really like to have cleared up. My assessment would go from about $1,200 to almost $8,000 on a sale, and that does, in fact, according to Grand Manners, include immediate transfers from family member to family member. In my case, it's actually from self to self, the majority person plus my sisters. So I'd be far better off in that scenario with doubling or even tripling the dues. The next thing I wanted to mention is that Grand Manners is continuing to make errors and omissions. I was double charged a pro rata share of trash when they mistakenly thought that I sold my house to a third party this summer. I went over it at length on the phone with two different people, and they kept saying, no, that's a subtraction, not an addition. I think they just thought that nobody would ever catch it because it was two different parties. But they finally reversed it over the last few days with no real explanation as to why exactly they were double charging me trash. They've also welcomed in writing my deceased and my terminally ill sisters, welcoming them to celebration, even though they were parties being taken off the estate planning vehicle. So I've got those lovely memento letters from them. And they actually double charged me the capital assessment, saying that it was two transfers, and sticking by that over two conversations on the phone until I got Jacob on the phone, and he went back and he looked up, information, talked to the lawyers, and, got it down to one. But again, if I hadn't had my eyes open, I would have been double charged the capital assessment. So anyway, just wanted to express there's confusion, and I'm really unhappy that there continue to be material mistakes. Thanks.
Thank you. And can everyone please turn their mics off at home? Because we're hearing coughing and noises and things. Please. Thank you all. Mute your mics. I see someone muted. All right. Do I have a motion to adopt our agenda? Make a motion. Second.
Revisions.
With revisions.
Sure. And just more language on the action item instead of treasury bills. It should just be U.S. treasuries.
All right. Yeah, because it would not just be bills, it could be bills and notes. Yeah. U.S. Treasury securities.
I think U.S. treasuries.
Okay, U.S. Treasuries. All right. Any other changes?
If we can add a discussion item, there was something that came out of the communications committee meeting. If we don't get to it, that's fine, but there were some posts around open houses on the town hall page. So I just wanted to have a little bit of discussion around that.
Okay, open house with this K.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor of adopting the agenda? Aye. Now let's get on to our discussion items, starting with the exciting, the incredibly exciting bathroom renovations. Oh, the action, I skipped right past that. Action item, this is the one that we just talked about. Motion to amend the Treasury reinvestment authorization to permit the Finance Committee to direct management to reinvest our maturing Treasury securities for a period of 6 to 24 months based on rates and upcoming expenditure consideration.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Now we can do the bathroom. Who's doing the bathroom renovation thing?
Oh.
Is that you? All right.
Yes.
So pursuant to the CROA bylaws 3.17U, for capital projects with an acquisition or development cost of $250,000 or more, require a board presentation to the community of total project costs, including acquisition or development cost, refurbishment or outfitting cost, a contingency for cost overruns, reserve balance impacts, and future operating cost impacts for 5 years or more. The presentation should also address funding alternatives being considered and the impact of associating operating and working capital funds. Can you pull it up? So the total project cost for the bathrooms, the board set the budget at a maximum of $300,000, which Darbo has come in at exactly. After reviewing the reserve study funding for partial renovations of Lakeside and Spring Park pool bathrooms, the board decided to utilize reserve funding from 2024 and 2029 for Lakeside and 2023 and 2028 for Spring Park for completing these bathroom remodels. So that's giving you a total reserve funding of $130,047 with the remaining $169,953 coming out of capital, because this isn't just truly a like for like replacement. We are actually upgrading the bathrooms to bring them up to a higher community standard. Refurbishment or outfitting costs, the established $300,000 budget is for turnkey bathroom renovations at both locations, so no additional expenditures are anticipated. Contingency for cost overruns. Again, the $300,000 is for turnkey bathroom. So we are not anticipating major cost overruns. However, if there are overruns, the board would then make a determination of whether to pull them out as reserve or capital funds. Reserve balance impact. The reserve fund will not be contributed to a level greater than budgeted for based on the decision to utilize the capital funds for the additional $160,953. Future reserve contributions would be required to be adjusted based on the increased cost for replacement for like for the upgraded bathrooms. And you can see based on the reserve study and the anticipated partial renovation through a 5-year period. The numbers next to each year are what the additional contribution for the 4 bathrooms that are being remodeled. Operating cost impacts. Operating costs would not drastically change. The main changes would be with the addition of the tile work, there would be less need for consistent painting in the bathrooms by the maintenance team. The improved ventilation should reduce the amount of corrosion that you see build up on the fixtures, and the higher quality and new fixtures will be less susceptible to breaking, as we are seeing almost daily issues with the toilets and the sink fixtures. At this time, there's no funding alternatives being considered, as the project funding was discussed over multiple CROA board workshops and meetings, but as always, it's up to the board to make those changes.
Anybody have any questions for Lauren? It all makes sense.
On the,
Higher quality will last longer.
on the exterior, does that need to be any type of mark review as far as compliance with our pool that are existing in the current?
Yeah, we will go through ARC for the exterior
It's
showers.
just the shower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the walls.
That.
That,
Yeah, that with a blue pool doesn't necessarily match, so.
Yeah.
Once they're quoting
Mhm.
something that is aesthetically.
perfect. That looks great. All right. No other discussion of that. Let's talk about 851. Anybody have any questions or anything about that?
Anyone online?
Yeah, I've got
how-
a question. Hello, was there an RFP done or 3 competitive bids?
Yes.
Yes.
We did a whole workshop.
All right, moving on to 851 remediation, the CALIC report on our poor little building and the state it's in.
So we just received today ROM numbers for town hall from COLIC with some overall just high level detailed summaries. We did talk to Jake and Darren about coming and meeting with the board and the impact group jointly to discuss these numbers more in depth, so you have a better understanding, but we wanted to put them in front of you.
Just out of curiosity, what do we have in town hall reserves?
Town
Do
hall,
we know?
you have a good amount of money. You have money not spent from HVAC replacement, window replacement, roof repairs. It's a fair amount of money.
So
At
the
least-
bigger number?
Yeah,
Okay.
Like, can you estimate it or do you not want to?
of what the number is.
Yeah, like, would it be like,
It's at the $1 million range.
Seven figures, so
It's like one.
Yeah, one.
Yeah.
yeah.
in reserves right now for town? Oh, wow.
729,000.
Thanks.
So much. Well, he's got the number sitting right there. So 729 in reserves, and then we're looking at these rough estimates of 3 million to 6 million, or, I mean, 5 million for repairs, basically.
2.8 million is
Yeah.
approximately low. Isn't it?
3 to 5 ballpark.
So,
Or 5 to 6.5 to replace like for like. Is that like for like?
He just said new build based on the cost. per
Say
square foot.
14,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be similar to what we have.
Mhm.
We're not going to get any more square footage. So it's $1 million, basically, up to $1 million more. Same square foot. Okay.
so the question that I have on the arm here that's listing for the different pieces in the scope for repairing essentially what's there today. This talks about the exterior repairs need to be done and all these sort of things. Does this include solving the problem? Because I know there was things like grading that had to be changed and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, this includes.
That was in the collect.
That was in the big report, but I want to make sure that was.
Yes,
this
we
number.
did talk about that specifically on the phone, and it did include grading.
Okay,
Yeah, that exterior repairs line.
that's included in repairs. So it's not just repairs to the building, it's including the site repair that has to be done itself. Okay.
Pulling that water away and into the. building.
Into the building as it is right now.
The roof was not, from what I read, the roof is fine. They could put a protective cover. Oh, so that's all. Okay.
That's in here.
All right. So yeah, I think we're all okay with sending that over to MPAC.
Would you like to hold a joint session with them, so with Collick present, so you guys can ask your questions as well, or do you want to just send it to MPAC?
Come 30 seconds workshop.
We'll ask them, yeah.
That would work.
What might be great is run it by MPAC. And then
For
get
their
their,
next meeting.
for their next meeting, and then bring it back around for the December workshop. So that they can condense and fine tune, rather than going off in 1,000 different directions with them and us.
Yeah.
So
Because it could be a 30-hour meeting if we're all on the same page.
Collick's not available for the MPAC next meeting, but we'll set a time for them to meet, at least with them virtually, or a smaller group of them.
Yeah.
Before.
Special meeting for them.
Yeah.
Lauren, if we could notice it as a joint meeting, that way any board members that want to show up to that can, and then we don't have to worry about anything.
That's what
Yes.
I was thinking, yeah.
So with our current scope of work with Collect is a 3-phase. The phase 1 was to get the conditions report. This was an additional ask to get this document here, which they provided, no additional costs. And next is going to be schematics and different engineering and drawings. We paused on those next phases, which slightly pauses our timeline with them, because we wanted to get this document to see where we want to, do we want to move forward with Collect on schematics on the current building, or are we looking at a different option?
And that's going to come out of the impact discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I suggest we then toss it over to MPAC and see what happens.
Yeah.
Michael?
Just want to make a couple of comments on the building. We've had a lot of conversations in the finance committee also about this. And Mark, because they put some numbers on P9 as well. I'd like to see the finance committee get a copy of this and be part of that MPEG. Because we've been working on finance, as you know, we allocated 2.5 million or earmarked it as a repair cost. And then if that doesn't work, then that looks like it's a down payment on financing the building. The thing I'd be concerned about probably is that if we spend $2 or $3 million or 3.5 or whatever it is for a building that's going to be, I think it's 15,100 something like that.
14,283.
So small, see. if we repair it, put it there, it's a building that we already know it doesn't meet our needs. Our big problem has been we haven't had enough space, so we're gonna replace something and spend money on it. Probably run into unseen circumstances of remodel. Everybody's been through a remodel. The typical rule of thumb my father taught me was 2 times X, whatever you think you're gonna spend. For my entire life, it's worked out that way. So it's really, really ugly. And we don't have something that we can work with. So I think everybody, I don't say agrees, but there's been conversation that if it's around 2.5, that's kind of a tipping point. And it sounds like we're at that point or near there. So I just wanted
But
to.
the thing is, Mike, too, they're quoting us up to 450 or 6.4 million just to replace like for like.
See, it's $500 a
That's the
square.
new build.
I mean, that's a new build, but a new build, same size. 14,000 square foot new build, 6.4.
That's not too bad.
Well, yeah, but I get, that's the same size building. That's exactly the same kind of space.
Yeah, we've got to raise it and put a new footprint on that property. You can expand on that property, so you get a larger footprint on that
Right.
property. And you could go 2 stories and partial.
Oh, yeah, I was a big proponent of that many years ago.
Yeah, so you can do that. But that's not a bad cost per square foot, really. That's 300.
450.
450. Yeah, I was figuring, we've been figuring 500 a square foot, so we're in the same ballpark. But yeah, we need a bigger building. So if you go to 20,000 square feet, you're talking $10 million at 500 foot. That's right where you are, so.
The problem is finding the money.
I'll give you a ballpark. I mean, if you do this, you put down the 2.5, take a note on 30 years, 6%, you're gonna talk $100 to $125 per household per year for 30 years, just to service that debt. That's what it'll be, that range.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe next steps, I know that needs a review, but looking at these numbers, if we can get a new building for 5 to 6.4 million, that's my opinion, as far as we know that building is what it is and not much more. So,
Yeah, and again,
you know, if we need to go up to 7 or 8 million to have a new build that satisfies our community, and that's what we should be looking at versus just trying to fit a 2.5, 2.8 number to fix that building. That, yes, it puts us in a better position having a newer like building, but it still puts us in the same issue of deficiencies within our community.
it's something we could, that's why we're gonna kick it to MPAC and see what happens. Moving on to park grading. Just, we have a thing here for that. Park grading and revamps to all kinds of parks, but the big ones are Long Meadow Heritage.
So for the park grading, this was the second month we're using on the new system. This was the first month that we had our new director of facilities and operations on the park grading along with myself. We on this one did bring Brian from Exquisite, our main landscaper for all of our parks all right along. And that was, so we gained cohesion on what exact items need to be looked at and why we're grading items the way we are. Out of conclusion of that, we had some open estimates from Exquisite, and there were a large amount that were provided after that park grading session. All of those have been provided here for the board, and it turns out to a full, two-sided document of different estimates. We did go through these estimates as they do range from highest, at $194,000 down to $200. We pulled the 3 that we think are needing, the main, needing to be looked at first to the top. That's going to be the athletic complex, which is going to just be a winter seating at $13,765. A Long Meadow Park redo at $194,000, and a Heritage Hall Spring Park at $148,000. A large amount of the money in those 2 parks does go into sod projects, especially with Heritage Hall Spring Park. There's a backfield at about $68,000 and the front lawn at about $48,000. The remainder of that is different enhancements with plants and items. There is a section that we did pull out of anything that's under $1,000, which will, and these are all passive parks, which is Gathering Green and Island Village, Beach Ridge Amusement Island Village, the Wedge and Island Village, Tapestry East, Mosaic East, Lutness Park, Oak Pond Park, Towhee Park, Sand at the North Village Playground, Ashby Park, Towhee Park, and East Park Crescent. All of those projects have small enhancements or just product replacement under $1,000 each, totaling $498,000.
$4,900.
Thank you so much. $4,900 to complete those. So we would be looking at doing. So management's proposal is that we look at moving forward on all of these projects that are under $1,000 as they affect a lot of our smaller parks and would be a big effect for a lot of our different community areas. And especially some areas where we haven't focused on park revamps lately. And then looking at the top 3 on the front page of the document as well.
What's in reserves for all this stuff?
You've utilized what's in reserves for
figured we used it.
landscaping.
Yeah, I thought we
revamps.
might.
However- Yeah, however, landscaping revamps are scheduled every year at a low dollar amount based on the number of parks. In your new reserve study, it has increased. But
So
just
this will all.
because well, I mean, that depends on how you want to use your reserve fund. You could still use reserve funds because these are still reserve items. You would just be accelerating the expenditure of that money.
Spend it and replenish it.
Yes.
But there's also, as I see this, looking actually this 6-digit revamp and an overhaul.
So I would say the 12 small ones, those are more reserve.
Okay.
I would say Long Meadow and the Heritage/Spring Park, those I would make an argument, those would be a capital expenditure.
Or portions
Or
of it.
portions of them capital.
Well, okay.
Because
I have several questions around why. Okay.
you're not doing like for like replacements.
But why aren't we doing like replacement? I guess is the question. Why are we automatically moving to the overhaul?
So here's an example in front of Heritage Hall. That sod does not necessarily need to be Bermuda. It's not an athletic
It's
field.
always been.
I know, but I mean, that's one of the things that's in the proposals. Bermuda does not do well in a lot of locations, and this is one of them.
I think, but isn't it,
Since 1990s.
but yeah, I agree with Charles, and also like I'm seeing in the proposal that there's St. Augustine for the backfield.
No, just the front.
It's in,
I was split up.
I don't,
You look at the spring.
I'm looking at, and then also Long Meadow was also St. Augustine.
So
And I know they use that as
Yeah, no, it says Lake, Long Meadow, St. Augustine.
and I think we had discussed,
page 40.
So Long Meadows by section, there is a section to be replaced with Bermuda and a section to be replaced with St. Augustine.
It's the
in
big
areas-
main lawn Bermuda.
Yes.
Yeah, Long Meadow.
They're all Bermuda right now. aren't they?
No, but in the proposal.
I thought it was St. Augustine. I thought that was.
No, the big main lawn, I heard Bermuda.
oh, no, right now it's Bermuda.
No, I heard it was going to be Bermuda.
Yeah, that's what we discussed at the meeting,
Yeah.
but when I looked at the bid,
For
I saw
Long
St.
Meadow,
Augustine.
for Long Meadow, they're showing 5,500 of Bermuda and 2,500.
So why is, can we, I don't know, what is the philosophy with moving to St. Augustine? Like I've heard of little bits and pieces.
Ryan, this is the expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would assume that when you're talking St. Augustine, you're talking about the perimeter areas. What,
Yeah, Long Meadow Park. We've had some resident feedback that there's an area of County Palms that borders Savannah Square. And there's a doggy pot station there. It used to be St. Augustine. The owners could go and their dogs could relieve themselves and all of that. We want to return that to St. Augustine.
oh, in Savannah Square.
Between Savannah, yeah, the end of Long Meadow.
Yeah, I know.
The entire Bermuda area that is Long Meadow now is to be repaired with Bermuda. No change there. So any St. Augustine is used on the perimeter where there's already St. Augustine.
Yeah, because on the opposite side of the sidewalk, it's St. Augustine, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the backfield will be
Here,
Bermuda.
Backfield, Bermuda here, the front. We've discussed St. Augustine and they're the same price. So you could go to Zoysia, St. Augustine, Bermuda, it's the same price.
So I think,
But the St. Augustine is more harder.
St. Augustine is more hard. So when I look at a property, any property I go to, number one is safety and security. Number two is functionality. Number three is aesthetics. It's not necessarily reversed in celebration, but aesthetics is number one in celebration. I wish it wasn't the case, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't look good, people complain. They don't care if it's functional, they don't care if it's safe, they want it to look good. So if we put St. Augustine out front, we can
Sounds good.
just about, yes, we can just about guarantee a green lawn all year round, through the winter, all of that. The reason for a switch to St. Augustine, you already have a Bermuda field for everyone to play on. I sat out here for an hour before the meeting and I watched no one play here.
I've never seen it. I've been.
I saw tons of kids on the backfield and I saw maybe 40 kids on the playground. It was crazy. There's a ton. That's a big success. That's awesome. But I've watched, I've been in here for 15 years, driving back and forth from North Village to Artisan. And I have watched, I know everyone says it's been Bermuda since the start or whatever. I've watched it fail since the start, over and over, just like the Artisan Park field. We recommended to them to change the Artisan Park field to St. Augustine. They, for once now, have a green field back there that has been maintained. The same amount of people play on that field that played before. It was, whether it was Bermuda or St. Augustine. Pennyroyal Park had pathways that went from the houses to the mailboxes. So the thought that Pennyroyal Park was this amazing field that everyone could play on is false. Because it changed from those pathways to a Bermuda field that failed and failed and failed. Then it was switched to the paver designs that go through there now, and St. Augustine only compliments, right? They said we destroyed it when we put the paver pass through there, only compliments. Like I said, I'm not impartial to one grass over the other. If you want to try Bermuda, I'll put Bermuda out there. I will not.
But it's gonna fail.
I will not guarantee.
It's gonna fail.
so
It's a very finicky grass.
Yeah,
Why
I've seen
is it like,
so I've seen the Facebook comments, right?
yeah, why does it fail? No, like,
Florida.
Yeah.
well, I think, so the Bermuda takes a lot of maintenance. It's expensive to maintain if we want to do
And
it.
it doesn't like lots of wet and it doesn't like lots of dry.
So this is true and this is not true. So many of you have a St. Augustine lawn at your own house and you can go out there and you're gonna find wild Bermuda growing in it. It's to eradicate it, pest control companies can't treat it. You can't fix wild Bermuda in a lawn. You have to kill it with Roundup, strip it out, replace it with St. Augustine zoysia, whatever it is. It's really, really difficult to kill this weed. This one in torpedo grass, really, really difficult to kill. So it's not that the wild Bermuda needs more attention, or not that Bermuda needs more attention or more care or anything like that. We can throw grass down, we can throw water. It's gonna live or it's not. In this field, in front of this building, it does not want to live anymore. Switch it to St. Augustine.
Well, and this is fill. This is
Yeah.
old mud from Lake Rhinelander,
Yeah,
basically. This is all fill and that's crappy soil.
correct.
It
Now,
doesn't drain well.
this brings up the other point. Can we make it viable Bermuda field and all of that? Yeah, we can bring
Well,
soil
small
additives and new soil and.
Yeah, and I think, so the piece where I'm looking here is, I look at this from a hybrid point of view, which is where I then see zoysia, because we went through this years ago back in Artisan. Artisan, many of like Mosaic East, Mosaic West, those used to be St. Augustine. And people like me complained that we didn't like the St. Augustine because I'm a northerner, so I didn't like the crunchy grass. So Bermuda, we knew would die because there's shade, and it just, no way in heck was it gonna do well. And then also multiple reasons, it just wouldn't work. So it was switched out for zoysia grass and that sort of thing. Zoysia's kind of an in-between sort of piece. I mean, is that,
So we're finding, so when zoysia was introduced to us, we were sold this song and dance. Pest resistant, drought resistant,
what's not?
flood resistant, all of these things. So zoysia is highly susceptible to mole crickets. Zoysia is terrible for drought resistance, amazing for drought recovery. You can turn the whole thing brown and then turn it back green. But who wants to see, in case in point, Spring Lake?
Yep.
Who wants a brown yard for 4 months out of the year?
I was just gonna say, it's the winter browning. And
Yeah,
so we're talking about aesthetics. You put Zoysia, you're gonna have brown,
sure. Oh, yeah.
4 months of brown.
Correct. Now, the other thing with Zoysia is we're finding a 7-year lifespan. Okay, after 7 years, we see that parts of it start to fail. We strip out those parts, we replace them, and we've got it for 3 to 9, maybe 12 months before that same spot fails. We don't know why, but that happens. So what you're talking about where the St. Augustine failed and Artisan Park and all of that, think about these things, it's cyclic. Okay, so just because it was switched to St. Augustine doesn't mean that the St. Augustine is gonna last for 20 years. You know,
Hey, I got 28 out of mine.
we may have to switch then to Zoysia.
Sure.
May have to switch back to Bermuda.
It's like crop rotation.
Yeah, also with this,
No, I mean, it's not, you know,
also with this, there's the 2 newest varieties of St. Augustine are Citra Blue and Pro Vista. One is made by Scotts, one's made by the University of Florida. Zoysia, there's several, there's Empire, there's
sod solution.
Zenith, there's a couple of different ones. So the universities are constantly creating ones. Georgia is where most of the Bermuda comes from. So they've just created, I want to say tip top.
Yep.
So there are other varieties that are constantly being created and improved upon. Are they perfect? No, not one of them is perfect. I have my Celebration Florida request that came in today about the back of this park, the easement that is just dirt right now. If I put any variety of any type of turf grass on that, it is going to die. There's way too much shade back there. It doesn't matter how much water we put on it, doesn't matter how little mowing, if we use a push mower or anything. Forget it, that's all nonsense. It will die. It's sod is grown in a big open field full of sun. Put it directly into 100% shade, it's going to die. We're gonna have to look at putting ground cover
Jasmine.
in areas,
Yeah.
jasmine, stuff like that. You see CCDD doing the same practice. You see new neighborhoods doing these same practices. They're seeing these areas that will fail in the future. They're smarter about it. So they're getting there. Celebration is behind on horticulture, it's behind on landscaping. We need to fix that.
And one of the things I think we need to do as a community, just generally speaking, is defer to expertise. We hire experts who know this stuff. And then we all sit around acting as if we know more than they do.
But not just that, there's this one Facebook post I saw, there's a woman who came on there, she has 4-year horticulture degree and works for one of the theme parks. That's an asset that you guys have, and I'm sure if she was asked nice, I don't know her, but I'm sure if she was asked nice, she would love to come and join and
Maybe we
try
get
to
our
do
parks
some
and rec.
things. Yeah, the celebration, the Creation Kids Village, when we did Deer Woods, they brought all of these kids over there, and these kids are interested and they're engaged, and that's the future. But they have a lady over there, Nailani Cummings, who, I mean, butterfly garden knowledge. But here in town, nobody's gonna hold a candle to her. You have the Garden Club, which is an amazing resource, and there are a lot of master gardeners with the extension office. And these people are great resources that we can bring into not a committee, but say we just asked a couple of them nicely, do you want to meet up and talk about what type of grass should be in the front of Heritage Hall? Let's get somebody who lives in this area, who has been here since 1996 and has watched it and said, you know, when Brightview took care of it, it was the best it's ever looked. You know, you need a fire exquisite and bring back Brightview or whatever it is. But using some of these resources we have are great. And I agree with you, Don, there's a lot of people in here.
Amateurs. I love using professionals.
I can't tell you how many people's pool guy have told me how to landscape.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think, so I think to me, it's one of those pieces where we, as a board, no matter what decision we make, we're gonna tick off someone. I mean, I think that's just what's gonna happen. I think to me, when I look at this, you know, a lot of these renovations that we're doing, I do think are more intelligent in what we're trying to do. We're not trying to put like for like everywhere, because we know that if we put sod under a bunch of trees, it ain't gonna grow. It's just gonna die. So to me, I think that that's why we're looking at not like for like, and I do think that there needs to be a little bit, we'll need to explore this as a board from a communications perspective to make sure that we're telling the community why we're doing some of these things. I mean, it seems practical when you say it, but the community is older, which means the tree that we planted there 20 years ago is now bigger if it didn't fall down, which means it's now shady underneath it. The grass that grew there for 10 years prior ain't going to grow there anymore. It's a different space, which I think we need to look at. So I think there's the education side of that we need to talk about. The only other piece that I would ask that we consider with some of these larger sod replacements, I know we're fighting mole crickets out here, but also just look at soil testing to see. I would rather not be penny wise, pound foolish on, if we need to add amendments after we've cut the soil, and yeah, it's going to cost us a little bit to do it at that time. Let's do it so that we try to set a good base for whatever we end up, putting.
We're making these decisions, like when we did Penny Royal, we obviously did the soil testing and found the nematodes, which were already previously suspected, so we just confirmed it. When we found that out, we went to the other failing lawn areas and tested all of them, Hippodrome, this one, Downey Park was one. The only other park that we found in that inspection that had nematodes was Downey Park. Ironically, Downey Park's sod has taken over the landscape. I mean, it's just a grass field now, but it has just the zoysia there.
We should put nematodes everywhere.
Yeah, but like Hippodrome was a real concern because we switched Hippodrome from zoysia to Bermuda. We
Yep.
returned it back to Bermuda because I remember driving through, like I said, 15 years ago, I remember driving by and seeing yoga in Hippodrome and other lawn sports. So if we can return that to a field that can be used for small light gatherings like that, man, community involvement, community engagement, that's the end result.
Maybe we could, over the next few weeks, Jacob, have communications put together, park pieces in the Monday email that says, coming up, we're gonna do this, 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 here's what we're gonna do the little parks, here's what we're looking at doing to the big parks, and here's why. Not just saying, this is what we're looking at doing, but here is why.
The reason behind it.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely, we can do that.
It should, a couple of things, it should be noted, and I don't want to say this, but you look at Long Meadow and it's saying 194,362. That may not be all it takes, right? And it may not be all it takes in 6 months. More St. Augustine that's on the rim may fail. We may say that we've tried, it's continuing to fail. Turf grass is not going to work here. We're going to need to look at a long-term plan like a ground cover. But these estimates that are here will get the parks in a much better shape and much happier residents around there. But I'd use Walt Disney World, right? When Disney built Walt Disney World, he didn't build it to be the same rides right now in today's future. It was supposed to be ever evolving, ever changing. A landscape is ever evolving, ever changing. It's alive. Things can die. Things have unspoken life cycle. The Hawthorne we find has about 10-year life cycle before they start to fade and die out. So when we're doing these, we're trying to use the best information we have at the time to make the best choices. Long Meadow Playground, that used to be grass around there. It's all about the dye, right? It's all basket grass right now, and that's a warm season weed. So it's all about to turn back to dirt. That's not my fault. It's just gonna happen. But it used to be grass. It can no longer be grass. There's just way too much shade there. Now, if the grass that was there would have survived to today and grown in that canopy and evolved with that canopy, it'd be fine, but it hasn't. That's why you can see people bring up the argument, well, this property is in shade. Why do they have grass? When's the last time you saw them replace it? Ever?
I get a little nervous, so like I'm looking at the Long Meadow one, and I see this park needs a full revamp. So like when I hear revamp, I guess I'm just trying to, we're not gonna maintain it, right? That's honestly, we struggle with just kind of the basics, right? Just keeping grass free. And I get a little bit concerned when we start adding and adding and adding. So what does this mean when full revamp? Because I see oak tree stuff. So
Yeah, so if we take Long Meadow, I can run you through it really quick. So Long Meadow, starting at Savannah Square, there's community palms there. I've had a resident engagement ask for that to be turned back to grass. So we'll try to return it to grass. The Crepe Myrtle Tunnel that is there, we don't want to touch it. We want to keep it. The Asiatic jasmine that's under the Great Myrtle Tunnel is failing. It's been tried to replace, it's not going to.
But it's old.
It is, it's old.
Plants don't live forever. They don't have an unlimited lifespan.
What we want to do is try to remove, and it's difficult because the roots are there, we want to remove as much as possible in nice squares and transplant it further up in the park to fill in some of the Asiatic jasmine that we will keep. We will start to replace it with Confederate jasmine. It's doing well in the sun, it's doing well in the shade. It forms the same exact look, only a couple inches higher. It blooms with white flowers, so you also get that jasmine fragrance. Moving up, there's just kind of a mix match, and we just want to throw in a little hedge here, a little hedge here, going down so we keep the visibility straight across the park for all the homeowners. We don't want to change the look of it. We don't want to change the feel of it. We just want to make it right. Moving up to the pavilion, that's where the bear of the work is. Around the playground, and like if we started Long Meadow today, we have to stop and wait for the playground to be redone before we can put that.
Sure.
But we want to bring in shade tolerant plants that are going to do well. The Queen Emma lily, it's going to be playful, and it's going to be something that does well in shade. Stramanthe, they'll bring in some color that's missing there, and it says this is a children's playground. It's bright. We want it to be happy. Yes.
Can you explain exactly what you said? So are these trees that you're,
Plants. These are all plants.
these are plants that are gonna be put where?
Around, like if you saw the playground as a horseshoe,
Mhm.
these would be on the horseshoe.
Like around, like a perimeter
Yep.
to kind of help corral.
Help corral,
Yeah.
and then when the ballards are there, to not say this isn't a ballard, but to say this isn't a stuck out.
So this is the $136,000 a plant, as I see in the proposal, 136, the 1 gallon plant material. Because I'm just looking at the,
Yeah, there's 1 gallon and 3 gallon. I think the 7 gallons are like,
so that's driving, so just based on what I see, that's primarily the plant is, okay,
That's the new thing.
yeah. That's,
To
okay.
give it color.
there's a tree leaves.
That's about color.
Yeah,
How much of the 136 is that?
Do you need the proposal, Brian?
I'd have to break that out.
So 3 gallon plant for 42,000, 1 gallon plant, 136,000, 7 gallon for 70.
It's the plant material. A lot of the 3 gallon material is going to be down toward the middle. And then about 6,000 of the.
For those hardy plants, like sturdy, so you can put it there to try to
Yeah.
run
we've
around.
used them elsewhere already and seen success, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're having success with these. We're developing a palette that we're repeating in different areas, and we're watching if things are not doing well. In essence, Roseling Park in North Village,
Yep.
we tried to replant with Asiatic. It's not working. We're gonna put in a new estimate for Confederate, half of that area. And then there's some plants on the back that'll be replaced under warranty because of an irrigation failure.
But for the record, I'm not cheap, I just want to see $136,000 and we have so many things going on at once. That's all I require.
Well,
That's where you see all of the, like, basically a systemic failure of all our parks, right? And we have other things we have to attack. That's where I get a little bit nervous.
so on the, we've been doing a lot of work in the passive parks while we've had them. So if you turn this over and you look here, the things under $1,000, a lot of those are passive parks that we've been taking care of that just need a little like quarterly, biannual touch up. And imagine if all the parks were there, we'd be talking about $20,000 right now.
Yeah, and I think speaking for it, so on Mosaic, for example, we have I don't know what kind of grass it is, but we have those ornamental grasses, that sort of thing. Those had never been like really cut back properly until you guys took over. And I think part of that was because there was a concern that it's going to look scary for a little bit, when those are reshaped. But now that area has been even cleaned up, and I know that, even your guys have said there's more that they want to do there. But it looks a heck of a lot better than what it had been now that the plants are able to kind of regrow and, now they're being maintained a little bit better.
Thank you for that. And another thing is like when we're going through Long Meadow's not an example, but say we went through one of these parks and there was viable good plant material there, and there's like, say 20 of them. that we're removing, we want to take them into a part that just needs a touch up, and it's like a win-win. So we like
Kind
that.
of safe.
We did discuss a lot of on our park grading on if we are to remove any grasses especially from areas. We already, we're identifying areas where we could, there are some areas, they're just blank. They're not in,
That's good to add to the communication too, because a lot of times residents see stuff being moved and they're thinking it's just being like tossed somewhere, that it's not being like repurposed. So I think that just,
I think the one thing too, really need to be mindful of are trees.
yeah,
When we cut down trees,
Yeah,
we learned that on a few,
Explain. Yes, always explain.
yeah, that needs to be right side.
yeah, and we need to have a separate discussion about trees as well, like, say the ones we just put in at Hippodrome. The intention is for those to be, smaller shade trees. But we've had a lot of feedback that they like them cone shaped. And people, I think, might be under the impression that we're gonna maintain those as the perfect cones that they're at. It can go either way, but we just have to have a decision, and it's perfectly healthy for the tree either way. So we just have to kind of make some decisions like that of the long-term aesthetic. But anytime we're removing a tree, moving forward, we're now preparing an ISA certified letter for that to be removed. So this is our tree guy is triple ISA certified with the state of Florida. He's one of 2 people that has that certification. And one of his is risk and safety assessment. So he's gonna be looking, Jacob and I have talked about several properties. He's gonna be looking at to see, is this an issue? Is it not?
do they?
So you're gonna do tree risk assessments and.
Yeah.
Full-fledged, real life arborists.
They're catching up with Helene and Milton, and as soon as they're done, this is gonna.
Okay. We decide that we're going to pull the trigger and say yes to everything. Cut a big fat check. What's the timeline for all this kind of
It's
stuff?
gonna take some time.
There's a lot
It's
here.
gonna be slow drips and drabs of money coming from us as opposed to one big. It's gonna come out gradually over the.
Well,
course of many months.
Here's my concern. My concern is that, and we've had this before, to Brian, to use your term, we're the Amazon community. We want everything next day. So if we as a board see this park ring and revamp and we're told, hey, you have all these things that you know that you're deficient in, why haven't you fixed them yet?
Not enough humans.
Not, okay, yeah, so not enough humans, but the.
Try to go fast and fix stuff before too.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm saying the response is, things take time.
To give you a rough idea, if we took everything under the $1,000 column in 1 week, we can clear that $1,000 column.
Yeah,
So if we took Founder's Park, we'd probably be a week and a half, 2 weeks max. We have done jobs the size of Founder's Park in 2 days. Like Penny Royal, our landscape portion was done in 2 days. The
Sure.
pavers and some other stuff took longer. Nadina Park, Trumpet Park, these are like done in the same week. Blue Sage, a lot of these. So your big ticket ones, right? Long Meadow and Heritage Hall. Heritage Hall and Spring Park, it would probably be a 2-week process for the whole thing. And several different teams coming over.
Is there a gradual approach? I'm just thinking with Long Meadow, like a fixed approach almost
Sure, the playground probably.
after the playground.
Yeah, I mean, we could hit we could separate it in 3 parts, right? We could hit the tree tunnel, and then we can hit the center of the park, and then we can hit the playground. We can go all the way.
On that, can you break out that 194 for the
Yeah.
different parts and what's going where? Because
Yeah.
my struggle right now is you're asking for $150,000 for a bunch of plant material. And all I'm hearing is a horseshoe around that.
Oh, no, he was talking.
I know they're doing all kinds of stuff.
No, but he did say plantings toward the tunnel part of it, new
Right,
plantings
but
in the
again-
tunnel.
Yeah,
All I see is 194 on the paper. I don't see, and the explanation was good, but a little bit more of where the money's going within that part.
correct. Now, that horseshoe is the beast, because
Right, so if you strip out the
It's
work, then what is the bid,
if, I'll get it for you.
right? Because that's the thing. We're not gonna be able to do everything.
We're not gonna be able to.
So if you
But-
say screw the horseshoe and this costs 100,000, is that
I do
good?
see some value though in that as far as safety.
No, he's saying to do, because the horseshoe can't be done to the playgrounds.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's next year project.
But it'll be a year until we can do that because of the playground, or 9 months, or whatever that
But if we
time.
can make 2/3 of that,
Right.
are good, knowing that the playground.
Right. But that's why I was saying, we're gonna drag it out over a period of time. But the biggest bang for the buck is gonna come in doing those little parks. Bang.
Yeah.
Which I guess along those lines, is there a reason why we wouldn't just pull this from operating since we're already over budget? That's why it's coming to us for those small.
We
ones?
can pull it from operating.
But again, 75,000, so.
I mean,
why-
there's been,
Why would you guys not do it if you think it's appropriate?
Where would we pull from operate? What specifically?
it's an unfunded item in operating. It's
Yeah.
landscaping outside of the fund.
Over.
This
Yeah,
5,000.
100,000.
Yeah, I mean, that would put it, it's just short of 5,000. That would put us just, like I said, it's unbudgeted right now in our operating. So it would just put,
So that can happen without anything.
So I,
it can,
don't
I would
necessarily
like
need
to
your-
propose it, to go, since it,
Yeah,
Like-
no, I'm just saying.
time, they're small. And
Yeah.
usually when we see these $200 ones, we do just move through on them with.
But you wanted to
all
put it into
this
this.
collected.
into this.
And since we have enough gathered together that are just around almost $5,000, it would be an ask for this one if we
Yeah,
could,
it's
pull
not
it to
getting
reserve.
smart to do projects, so it's 200 here, that part's there. That's within your due diligence to say this part needs maintenance, we have to do it.
Yes, you're correct.
That's
Rather than
11 projects.
get to $10,000.
Oh, yes.
Less problem.
One other thing, alluding more to what you said earlier, about are we choosing the right plants in the right place? So when we're going through these areas, we're seeing Main Village, right? So every park that's included in Main Village should be not any better than any other park, but the cream of the crop. Here's where we should have our roses, our formal plantings, like camellias, gardenias, real cut flowers, right? Beautiful, formal gardens. Artisan Park. I mean, just the name, Artisan Park. It should look like an artist's palette going through there. There's already a lot of bare bones in there, like, crotons and Thai plants set up, especially in amphitheater. And these look like broad strokes of a paintbrush, stuff like that. So we're trying to keep that in mind and theme as well as we're going through.
and Brian, any of these things so let's talk about some of the ones on here. Are we looking at time of year issues with any of these where it's we shouldn't do this in the winter, for example?
Or dead.
So.
The first one, the athletic field, yes, that's a timely item. That's resodding for the winter.
Okay.
Reseeding.
Receding.
Yeah. Yeah, now that winter rye that we put down is just like it sounds, winter rye. It's gonna die in March.
Right.
But we want to do that. We want to get to the point where our Bermuda fields are Bermuda, not just the athletic complex, but all of them. And we're overseeding with rye on all of them each year. So they're looking.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we create an action item for the next meeting to get the athletic complex done, which is essential? And to just go ahead and put on the agenda the $5,000 for the 12 passive parks, then wait for Brian to break down the Long Meadow bid into 2 or 3 pieces. The pieces that we can do in the nearer future and the ones that are going to have to wait on other projects like the playground. Why don't we?
Say for the items under $1,000, why waste an action item? And we have no objection from the board for Grand Manor.
Yeah, we can ask them to do it now with the consensus.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with it.
Just start it.
Yeah, we can start it out operating. Do you want to put it on the agenda as a reserve expenditure or just keep it in operating? and just go-
Let finance discuss it next week, and if we need to, we can put it on the board as a reserve.
Yeah, we can just sign those tomorrow.
I'll have Long Meadow split tomorrow.
The Long Meadow split would be great, and then we can go from there and decide what the priority is and what the order of these bigger 5- and 6-figure projects are.
And Belinda would work on communication.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the thing that I still we've now been told that there's a problem. Like we have residents that say that there's an issue. We have our landscaping provider that states there's an issue, that sort of thing. And I understand that it's a lot of money to fix all of this. We need to figure out how we're going to pay for all of it. But to me, there's not things that we can pick from here.
No, I'm just talking about a timeline.
We need
All
to-
I'm talking, Eric, all I'm talking about is a timeline. Not doing any of them except the horseshoe.
Right, okay, okay.
Doing all of them because we know they need to be done. Just creating the time, the schedule with Ryan, because he has a finite number of bodies that he can throw at them on any given day. So
Sure.
they have to be spread out over the course of the next 3 or 4 months maybe, but that we are on all of them.
I
And then
guess
we can go forward saying, we're on all of them. These are getting done.
I will add too, that for the 4 and 5 figure ones, they might be graded a 3 or a 4, so it's not an immediate need for it. We do need to do it to get it up to the perfect condition we want, but it's not an immediate. Need. I think immediate needs are the top 2, which are the largest ones that we got to figure out. Heritage Hall and Long Meadow. The other ones are more projects to get them to proceed.
But we should do them all. We should
We should.
determine that we are going to do them all because we know they're problem children. And if we don't do them, they're just gonna get worse.
No,
And from a bandwidth perspective,
That's the
you're
way
okay taking these on, and then obviously the regular maintenance, that's fine from a staffing. You're-
Oh, yeah. The thing that I came to a realization a little while ago is I'm not the largest company that is in Celebration, right? Land Care's in here, they're nationwide. United's in here. I can see Brightview come through all of these. But I do have the largest workforce that's ever been put together inside Celebration Monday through Friday. I have over 40 employees. Now, when you look at like, spoke with Russ with CCD and I was curious, how many guys does United have over there doing the entire CCDD area? It's 12. So we far surpass anybody. And Fridays is overtime. On any given Friday, I can literally put 40 to 50 guys on one project.
How about this? Get us the breakdown on the Long Meadow so that we can determine that. Give us a list of how you believe these can proceed in a timeline that works for you and your staffing. And then we will then look at that and come up with a resolution to vote on at the last meeting to say, we're gonna do this. Then the community said, we can send out a note to the community saying, these are being done in this order.
Yeah, not a problem. I'll work up a schedule, but one thing, like you were saying, people have noticed the problem and they want it done. And I know when we were doing Hippodrome, there was a comment that there was a pile of dirt. And when they redid the artisan field, there was a pile of the demo sod that they left there for a day or two, right? So if we were trying to get this done as quickly as possible, we would go into a demo mode. And we would demo every single one of these projects.
Oh,
And then we would start to bring in plants. So I would say smart wise would probably be to demo, plant, finish one part before moving to the next.
That's what I'd like to see. I think that having a schedule, say, this one's gonna get demoed, replanted, this one's gonna get demoed, replanted.
you can publish.
And then we can publish it. And then everybody can look at that and go, yay, come June or May or February, I'm gonna.
We can do like we did, Deerwoods and Hippodrome. I have a guy with a drone and he can do a drone flyover before, drone flyover after. If we want to do like,
Makes it more trouble.
yeah, if we want to engage Belinda more.
Brian, are there any of these, and then I promise I'll be quiet about this, are there any of these that are related as far as a plant material or a equipment rental or something like that? So for example, like if you have to bring in a sod cutter for something or, or it's easier to buy more plant material because we're doing two parks at the same time. Are there any of those situations where we would want to tie some of these pieces together? Or can that be presented to us?
I'll work on that with the schedule. Like when we do Long Meadow Park, it'll be the only thing on the plate. But when we do, say, Croton Park, we'll probably have Croton Park and maybe a couple of these from the $1,000 range. So that we're knocking out a couple of smaller jobs and a larger job at the same time, affecting more people as possible. But the only things that will alter, we're out of hurricane. Shouldn't be out of hurricane. So
That was the one
The other way, yeah.
the only things that will slow us down from now until March is frost and freezes. So,
I can't remember the last time we had it for these.
so Celebration is really, really lucky because you're so sheltered. Like at my house, I'll have 10-foot tall fire bush. The trunks explode with ice. Here, and I'll come in and I'm like, it's just gonna be devastation. And I come in and everything's happening.
It's our bubble.
Yeah. No, this,
Thank you so much for
Well, I
Really.
guess for this list,
Yeah,
outside of the 1,000, I can take care of this month. Do we want to have this in a 3 to 6 month window?
well, what he tells us is the reasonable window, and then we'll go from there, then we'll discuss it with him. I'd like to hear what his window is, but it sounds like 3 to 6 months.
Right.
I said, if you
Based
gave
on
me,
what he just
So we
told
can do
us.
certain things each month, kind of pair it that way, we build it together as far as what plan we're putting. And obviously, Long Meadow and Heritage Hall should be sooner than later, but then how the other pieces fit in over that time, other things taken into account.
yeah, and there's a couple of other things, but I'd have to pick them out individually, but Hippodromes, when we did Hippodrome, we scared a lot of people because we cut the shillings to all be the same size. So they were completely bare on top, I think people thought we were coming back to remove them, no, we wanted them to recover. If I do that in December, looking at April. For
Yeah.
recovery. So if there was a project, one of these parks had in a similar circumstance like that, we may put that all the way to like March.
This is why I wanted it to be like his schedule, because he knows what, we can't say, go to Long Meadow, December, and he goes, but it's gonna look like hell until April.
Well, you're also maintaining the other parks again, so that's where we want to make sure
Correct.
we're setting the right expectations both for you and the community. We can-
Let's get his, we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
Well, and then one nice thing is there any drainage or irrigation issues on any of these? That was-
The BC, I don't see it. The field, the soccer,
Right, I mean, I'm talking about here, right? I mean,
the soccer fields. Yeah, the
Well,
fields.
soccer fields, whatever, that just gonna do some seating, that is where it is, but I'm more looking out here at Heritage. Does that need to be regraded? Does it need to have certain, switching so it actually works? Does it need to have better soil?
So preps on different sods, like when we prep Bermuda, it needs to be like level. When we prep Zoysia, it's the same thing, a little rock will show up on things, Zoysia. When you prep for St. Augustine, just lay it down and it all evens out. You try to get it as level as possible, obviously, but.
St. Augustine basically even levels out houses and sidewalks.
Strat.
But if
If
you
you're
see-
support, then you come back with anything concerning regarding sinkage or change of texture, anything of that nature.
No, and
a hell of a lot of
before,
mole crickets.
like I said, they're all the same preps.
Images.
So before we do St. Augustine in front of Heritage Hall, it's a conversation I'll have with Lauren and Jacob, and we'll make sure it's, the right choice going forward. And if they decide we need to get community involvement or something before we make a change like that.
How do you feel about concrete?
All right, moving along. Thank you. We're going to the Long Meadow Playground now. Not that we want to, but we need to. What's the story on Long Meadow?
Right, so Long Meadow, we're finally got all the pieces together
Thank you, Brandon.
to work on this project. So Diane O'Neill is still under contract with you to manage the project from start to completion. If you recall at your August workshop, she discussed with you that she thought the RFP that you were going to issue was going overkill for this project. And she recommended kind of a 4-step process. Diane would remove the existing swing set, the footers from the spring rockers, the artificial turf and the underlayment, address the missing washers, adjust some fasteners, infill panel, and close the gaps in the double slide for $11,975. CROA would purchase the sensory equipment from LSI that's going to replace the spring rockers that lasted,
Good.
2
2 days.
days. Creative Recreation Products has agreed to be our warranty conduit with playgroundequipment.com, which was something that Diane was struggling to find somebody who's willing to do that. And they will install the pod climber that's replacing the bridge, install a 2-bay swing that's replacing the 1-bay swing with 2 belt and 2 bucket swings, install the new LSI sensory equipment and relocate the merry-go-round to an appropriate spot for.
All that for 11.5?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
A new RFP was issued in October for grading and installation of the new safety surface and artificial turf. We have 4 bids. Top Turf was the one that we're recommending based on their, they are local and their references were immaculate. The The total cost of all of those together is $74,626. Your total reserve funding for this project back in 22 was $145,000. You paid Phoenix Works $83,000 for their part of the project. So the total between the 83 and the 74 brings you to $157,626 with a total overage of your budgeted reserve amount in 22 of $12,626.
So we can solve this littler disaster than Spring Park.
Yes.
For 12, to less than $13,000.
This is,
A bargain.
this is
Miracle.
way.
I know it's a miracle. That's
Way less
Yes.
way less.
than what I was expecting this to be. And I guess the question that I have is why?
I think Diane,
Yeah.
I think Diane has helped. I think the only, not trying to derail this, the question that I have is the pieces that we have in here with like the two-base swing and these different things. We knew that some of this equipment was undersized for the amount of people that use that playground to begin with. Do we have room if we wanted to switch to like a 3-bay? Is that?
You do not have room for a
We
three
just don't
based,
for any of this
based
stuff.
on the space that you need.
That was the diagram. Yeah.
she didn't study the diagram.
To get you back on track, I think we use what we have, and then next time it's up for replacement, that's when a whole redesign can be done.
Okay.
It's a one bay.
That's what we have to realize.
Yeah, right now it's a 1-bay, it's going to a 2-bay. You're also a little bit
That's a big
restricted
move.
because it is because of the size of the location and the fall zones and the space between the different equipment, it does limit the amount of equipment you can put in there.
So let's say, looking at Long Meadow, I don't think that playground should be at the end. I think it should be more toward the center of the park so that it's not coming in once that street's right there. So I think that's down the road in the future.
It is where it is.
It is where it's
The
right now.
reality is, I honestly thought we were gonna be looking at 6 figures on
But I'm
this.
saying, as far as it's, you're doing.
I think six
that's what we
figure.
can with what we have.
So this does not include the bollards though.
No, but that's a smaller price. It's in like this 5 to 7 range for.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What was, so top turf, is who you're recommending for?
it is. The turf samples that they brought in are much more suited for a high traffic area. They won't need to be refreshed as frequently as, say, the turf that's utilized over here at Spring Park. So we were really focusing on high traffic turf, and their references were great.
Their reviews are, top turf reviews are amazing.
In the program, her Lauren Grand Manners will handle removing turf on this playground and getting grade down 3 inches from surrounding sidewalk.
Diane's doing that.
So Grand Manners is not, that's Diane.
Yeah, let's just
And that's,
being taken care of.
and Top Turf has that information also, that's already factored into the price.
Yeah.
Did Top Turf have a specific warranty on the products?
They do. It was, I want to say a 7 years.
Or workmanship and see. The other one was
Remember what it
15 and 10 for the other two.
Yeah.
Did Diane give like a timeline at all when she thinks it could get started?
She has that holiday decorating business, so it would be probably in mid-December that she will.
Top turf offers 15 years.
15.
She would start at mid-December?
I have to double check with her, but when she was here in your August workshop, she talked about that she couldn't start at least until mid-December.
So I think the one piece that I would watch for timing around that is school break for
Yes.
winter.
I would not cut it out during.
Even though we'll get complaints about what's existing, we'll get more complaints if
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So, and it'll also be based on the timing of the shipping of the swing bay and the equipment outside.
It's gonna be January.
It sounds like a January.
So, yeah.
But I think that I wouldn't want to delay ordering it.
No, the plan is to put this on your November agenda for approval for all of these.
Okay.
We just wanted to go through how the project would lay out because it was a little bit,
Probably could just start the permits.
Sure.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, where do we sit on the shade structures?
Shady.
So there's.
Yeah.
Would you have someone? Yeah, didn't we have our
We should move this.
database online just a month?
Jeez.
Jennifer, are you online?
Is this right? 360?
Yes, this is
Yeah.
Rex 360, the vendor for the shade structures.
I don't
I
see
don't
it.
see her. But Jacob did get a call from their, from the installer about the pool structures today.
So
And
they were on site today, their contractor for installing the shade structures over the 2 different pool equipment areas. They're looking at, from that phone call, starting with the Spring Park pool, potentially later this week. They are only holding on the structure for the Island Village pool on getting the flagging for any underground electrical in the area. Once we have that done, they are looking at ready to move on that. The other 2 are still in the permitting process. The playgrounds.
are those the ones that were held up like because of the 911 thing?
Yes.
There is a little bit of confusion on that though. The person said that the thing that they were waiting on, the knock, they were waiting till it was approved before they could submit it. They could still submit it ahead of time, so I don't know, and it can't be issued until it's submitted. So I don't know, like the person who emailed you, they sounded like they may be waiting for something they don't need to wait on. Because this has been over a month. They were filed October 4th.
So they just need to knock on file.
As,
So I've been talking to the city, so the 911, I personally put the report, I give it to the DC for him to submit. The other permit that they can be stamped before, that can be done before, but do not move the process of the permit. It can be done at the moment the permit is being released, and then they will stamp it, because they need to wait until the board is connected on the playground area, that you can put all the paperwork. That's when it need to be actually stamped and put. So that will not stop the process. So I spoke with both ladies that were in the permits in the city. One is already on the review of the engineering, and the other one is just waiting for a fee to be paid to be go to the engineering process. So both are running. There are notification that those documents need to be submitted, but they're not holding any permit. It's just that it's part of the process that they're going to.
What's the timeline?
Who pays the fee?
The DC.
They do?
because we've paid the permitting for them in June.
They just need to
So
cut the
they
fee
need
check.
to send.
When they get an email saying, hey, this is part of the process now, you're going to engineering, you pay $700. So they go and pay that fee and go to the engineering. So it's a process that will go through all the county. So one of them is ahead of the other one. But then both are moving. So neither of the notification that you will see is holding the permits. But they have all the documentation ready. As soon the permit is done, they just need to stamp it at the city. But it's not holding the permit. That's, the permits are moving to the CO account.
Vendor doesn't seem to be super responsive based on not attending tonight.
They did have email confirmation that they would be attending tonight.
Talking about the liquidated. Where is that landed? I mean, because the commitment was October.
October 15th.
Okay, so
So
we're,
you've only paid half for the playground and the pool shade structures.
Okay.
So before remitting any additional funds upon completion of the job, then that would be a board discussion on if you wanted to engage in those liquidated damages. But I would suggest that you talk with council first because there are some
Should
limitations.
we just do an executive session on that?
We have to do a public meeting.
Yeah.
We have to have public,
With-
not litigation.
Sorry, go ahead.
But what's the timeframe on the?
So normally there's 30 to 45 days from the moment they submit the permit to.
Yeah, but what do we have left now?
So one of them is in the engineering process. I will say if everything goes good on the engineering diagrams, another week or two. The one that's still not going through that can take another 3. It's still not going
So
through.
to the end of November.
Yes.
This sounds really silly, but why can't we just pay the fee and then not, let's say we don't go liquidated damages and do that. Can we just cut a check to Osceola for the damn fee to get it to moving
No,
forward?
it's.
We don't know if they even were told, we don't know if they were even asked to pay that fee yet. We're not getting those notifications. It goes straight to
Yeah, and you go through the permit folder. I would say that if they don't get something done by the end of this month, get it done by the end of this month, that we go talk to Charlie.
Are the shade structures in? Have they arrived?
The
For the
pool,
playgrounds? What about the playground? They're not even in.
so let's tell the whole story here, guys. According to the vendor, they won't even order the shade structures until the engineering permits have been stamped and issued. So our biggest beef with the vendor is, that could be another, who knows, 8 to 10 weeks before they even fabricate it.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
So, and,
They haven't ordered the.
they have not ordered.
Yeah, originally they said that would take 8 to 10 weeks.
Yes, plus shipping.
Oh, so we're looking at January.
At the earliest.
Yeah,
The playgrounds, which are the main ones.
for the playgrounds, which are the big ones.
Yes.
We paid in June.
Already briefed Charlie on this card.
So, okay, I think we need to figure out because I think here's the other thing. The moment we start talking liquidated damages, the vendor's gonna claim up.
They totally.
So-
That's why.
Here's what, you don't need to go, I think the decision point is, do you continue with them to just get the job done with the playgrounds and live with the timeline as is, and then withhold the money that you're able to?
Yeah.
Or do you cut bait now after hopefully they do the pool structures and go to a different vendor for the playground?
See, here,
Yeah.
my hope was that the threat of liquidated damages could get them off the dime, but the fact of the matter is that they haven't even ordered the shade.
They're not out.
The fabric.
We'd be out half.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're gonna have to sue for that.
It would be better to finish, I think, since they started the permitting process and then not pay.
We gotta find another vendor. We gotta go ahead.
Yeah, I think Katie's right. I think
I agree.
we just.
So I do think that we need to communicate that to the community to let them know that we understand this is running behind. We're having challenges with the vendor, we're moving forward, we'll never use them again, whatever, but
Discussing options.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to, you guys need to check with Charlie.
I've already agreed him
And what does he say?
on option. Well, the liquidated damages, you would, at this point, you would be holding back money and not remitting any additional. And then depending on how long it takes, then you would be requesting additional funds back.
Right, and that's our right, it's in our contract.
Correct, but there are limitations to liquidated damages.
That's what-
Punitive, because if it's a delay caused by county permitting, if it's a delay caused by the fact that the county didn't have the site plans for the location, so they couldn't submit the permits, then that limits your ability to collect liquidated damages. So, I mean, based on my conversations with him, I believe you would probably be limited at just not remitting any additional money, and it wouldn't be worth your time trying to collect any additional.
Makes sense.
it's not as hot this time of year.
All right, so that makes sense, that all makes sense.
On the pool structure, can that be done this month or not?
Well, he was out here today saying that they were gonna start by the end of this week.
They're ready to get started.
So that was without any
We like to
any
get-
any conversations before today. They had a phone call today that they're here to look and they're going to start installing.
I think.
But that's-
The conversation is, you get the pool structure done prior to Thanksgiving. Give us some.
No, I think the wisest thing is to just shut up. And get the shade structures installed in December or January or whenever that is. And then we take our next step.
Would we like to invite the vendor again later in the month?
People indicting them.
I think the more you can kind of like hold their hand a little bit to get the permit done.
So I'm working directly with the county,
Okay,
without the DC, with the people that I have.
yeah, okay.
That's how I have the permit.
So you got this far.
So I'm gonna do everything on my power to push it, to
Okay.
get it quick.
Christian's
Thank
been,
you, it'll help. Thank you.
We almost awarded the playground. Done.
yeah, Christian's been on almost daily on checking it.
The pool
Glad you're here.
equipment installation, shade structure, does this conflict with any of the Eco Lab installation at the same time?
Ecolab installation is
It's
completed.
completely done.
Yes, and it's running very well.
Yes, you go, all right, moving on to the appointing of board liaisons. to fill all of the positions.
There's the service area, if anyone doesn't care.
So,
Would you like service area?
Anybody want anything?
I'll take dog park.
Dog park, Jared, thank you.
can we, the liaison for condo council and, well, the liaison for condo council, what is that person?
Like a once a quarter.
It's a once a quarter
meeting.
I'll raise my hand for condo council.
Eric,
It's mostly a shared communication between condo owners of what challenges they're seeing and talking in
Yeah.
sections.
Yeah,
Okay.
specials,
special events.
special events. Anybody want to go to special events?
I would do, but when's the time?
It's in the middle of the day, 2 to
Tuesday at 2 to 4.
Yeah.
On the second Tuesday of the month.
Everybody with their hand in.
I have absolutely no bandwidth for anything.
I will try and make that work.
So just a reminder, this is only until the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as
So
long
it's
as,
only like a couple.
you know what, I'll
November,
do
December,
the
January.
foundation, I'm just not gonna go to their meetings, I'll just, talk to them.
And then we're good.
Yes.
So do we need to vote on this at the meeting? Or
We vote on it.
No, there's a,
side?
We just decided.
All right.
Add a liaison from CROA to the Communications Committee and Special Events.
are you,
Doesn't Kanoa need to do that?
Yeah.
Not everybody, yeah.
So I think we were just agreeing
Well,
to
we're agreeing to have this fun.
do it.
Hey, we agree, so there we go.
Do we need to amend the communications committee charter, or is this just based?
But it's liaison.
They're just attending.
Just-
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Park benches.
So for park benches, up to that, I'm gonna share the screen. So you can see.
I did like that I could click that too.
I'm glad. Yeah, because
Loves
Donna,
this technology.
Stumble things.
Donna does a lot of work on that, so I appreciate that. So share this. Okay. So for our park benches, this project started as we do have in the reserve study an annual budget for $18,000 for site furniture and fixture refurbishment and partial replacement. In the 2024 reserve study, this line does appear annually with a 1.3 yearly increase. This means that it's a of 2025 is 18,594. This project really started to be looked into with the missing benches Hippodrome, which are still currently missing. We didn't want to look at ordering benches for just one park before we did a full assessment on all of our passive parks to see what other benches need to be ordered in a similar time frame. We're bringing this up as a discussion item as there are 3 types of benches commonly used in our parks. We have polywood benches, which are a composite wood bench that look fully almost, like a wood bench, and they come in black and brown. And we have a mixture of the 2 colors depending on the village you are in. We have a Victorian style metal sided with wood slat benches, and we have metal benches. Prices for these at Polywood average around $500. The slat Victorian benches $1,000, and our metal benches at $1,250. This is purchase price. After assessing our current bench situation, we have the following proposals. We were fortunate that we didn't find as many as I thought we would be needing in different parks. So with Hippodrome Park, the recommendation is to replace the 6 missing benches and the 2 full wood benches with 8 Victorian benches totaling around $8,000. An option is to replace these with polywood benches. However, all other benches in Hippodrome, Longmeadow, and Savannah are Victorian benches. For Longmeadow, there is to replace 3 missing benches totaling $3,000. We know these are missing as there are
Places where there aren't benches.
correct. Yeah, concrete pads on the board, often with trash cans next to them, and they are missing benches currently in current state.
Saying this matches.
Where did they go?
Did they break?
think they were removed for repair.
Some person from blocks away.
They just walked away?
The Hollywood benches, and this was also part of our assessment whenever
They bolted down?
is to
Yes.
any benches that are not bolted down, that are polywood, that are easily moved, is to secure those as fixtures.
Some were damaged by vandalism, some were pulled to be repaired but couldn't be repaired.
The full wood benches that are missing in that park have no way to really be repaired by our maintenance team. It's one of those types of benches are just better to be fully replaced.
All right, fine.
We do like the Victorian style benches that you see through town, as they have metal sides, and our maintenance team can refurbish and redo the slats of those. So they have a much longer lifespan, just with smaller, cheaper refurbs to them.
Sure.
Very good.
Isn't Hollywood, isn't that like the lifetime warranty, like the
Yeah.
system to fading, like it's
Yes.
pretty well.
Yeah, Hollywood is a brand name.
Yeah.
And we usually would order direct through them.
Okay.
For these, they do last quite a longer. The biggest issue that Hollywood has is with vandalism. If you cut into them, there's really not much we can do besides, cut out that section, and it doesn't leave it as looking as good. And they don't have replacement parts as easily.
Well, and one of the things about Hippodrome and Longmeadow is that they were designed more like an English garden kind of thing, which is where that Victorian fits in.
Yeah, Longmeadow has about 8 Victorian benches in it currently, and then the middle section have these other style of benches. The recommendation would be to
Under the
under the arbors
gazebo.
have the Victorian stuff is current.
So, so this cost here is for the bench themselves, but we know that there's places where we would need to pour a pad and to drill to mount the darn thing. So hopefully it's harder for them to walk away.
Correct. And any area that is missing the pad is outlined right here.
Okay.
So next we have, this little benches now. Veranda Park, which is, which is just very near to Hippodrome. That park had 2 polywood benches floating inside the park that were commonly moved around by residents. That puts a big safety risk. Any benches not on a platform are at safety risk of people sitting and falling back on the bench, especially if they're on a soft surface, which most sod is. So those 2 right now have been pulled and have been pulled from that park. We did not do a plan to put platforms in that park right now, as during the park grading, that one is also to get some encouragement, some work, and it does have a need for some type of seating area. So the recommendation is to wait until early 2025, or any plans are on that park as maybe a different seating to assess the seating in that park. And there'll be, as we've outlined, there's funds next year for that budget line as well. The Artisan Park Amphitheater, so not down at the amphitheater, but closer to the bocce ball court. There has been a notice that is one of the main bus stops in Artisan Park, and it is heavily used in the mornings by children waiting, and there's no benches in that area. So the recommendation would be to add 2 paver platforms at an estimated cost of $1,200 each, and 2 polywood benches totaling $1,000 each, or near the bocce ball court. Consider reallocating removed veranda benches at a 0 cost per bench, totaling the project from $1,200 to $2,200 because of no need for bench costs.
So I thought that pavers, if I put on my Wayback Machine hat, were not an appropriate fixture surface for a bench because the paver itself was not large enough to prohibit someone lifting the whole thing up with just the paver attached to the bottom of it.
The only reason that it was recommended, and all other platform paver or platforms on the bench project are concrete platforms.
Yeah.
It was only recommended for this Artisan Park, as the other parks in Artisan are that have their benches have pavers. So this was just a recommendation to match.
What keeps you from putting in concrete slab?
It just costs, I would
Costs.
say.
I know,
Yeah.
nothing goes walking.
So I think, well, I know what they had looked at So the benches in mosaic, those sort of things.
Right.
I know that you can lift up those chairs with the pavers attached to the bottom of them.
Yeah.
It's not hard. I think
How
that
would you know that?
He's strong.
we needed to move them. But the other piece with that is if some park in the community, I don't know where it is, but someplace that we did this, we did concrete tubes, the sonotubes that went down underneath the pavers where this was secured to. And then they put pavers on top of it. So it wasn't a pad, but it was just a bigger, heavier thing underneath it. So that
Cheaper than pouring patch.
cheaper than pouring a pad, but still made it more difficult for someone
It doesn't
to,
matter. Wait.
yeah. So I don't know, just, there was something with it being secured to a paver. There was a concern with it could still walk away, and there was a concern that it didn't meet a wind load rating in case of a hurricane. Not that I think that really matters, but I mean, it's one of those things where if you leave it out there and it's secured to essentially a footer at that point in time, it really ain't gonna move. But it's whether or not we want to spend the money and the labor to do that.
So can I jump in talking, we're having side conversations. We're talking about doing those type of things in-house.
Yeah.
So your labor and your material costs are almost minimal. So Christian has the know-how and mindset and experience to do that. So whether it be the sleeves or the pads themselves, much cheaper to do it in-house and you have to sub that out.
Okay.
And again, just going to the bottom line, if we do all of this, we're pretty darn right there in what's budgeted.
I don't see anything concerning.
I don't see anything concerning it. I mean, we could talk it to death, but
I guess the concern would
we need
be
we need benches.
with Hollywood, does that even make sense? Or is it truly Victorian for the aesthetic?
The Hollywood for Artisan Park is because
Cooler.
Which benches have gone walking? Hollywood, metal, or Victorian?
Hollywood.
Right.
Apparently, we lost to Victoria. Yeah, Longman.
And then what's the maintenance on all three of these? For lifespan?
Gonna repaint the,
Can't do anything with ball.
don't you know, the Victorian will get restained.
Hollywood, you replace the darn thing.
Yeah.
The Victorian, you can refurbish, like you mentioned,
In-house.
in-house. And then the metal one is metal.
It's a powder coating if needed for assessment. So the metal ones have the lowest maintenance requirements.
So I mean, 5 minutes, there's a Victorian specific parts, so you're looking for that, but then everything else should be metal, no Hollywood.
Plus, and Artisan, for some reason, the Hollywood seems to fit the look of Artisan. The Victorians, Artisan is.
Almost plastic.
No.
The long,
It's more of a modern.
the Craftsman Park does have metal and it does have Hollywood. There are no Victorian.
There are no
in
Victorians,
ours.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that line item could be switched to 2 metal benches. That would increase the total bottom line by $2,500 as we don't have any benches currently available for that. And
We keep spending extra money. When Hollywood has a long life warranty and has been used effectively all over town.
Don't these rust?
the main,
Isn't there rust also in any, maybe I'm thinking of something else. I thought-
I mean, with the 3 bench types we have here, I wouldn't worry about any of the maintenance or longevity of them.
It's been,
The only thing that has the full wood benches, and we do have a few of those. And Sand Lace is one does, and Hippodrome is one. We're looking at completely phasing those out and doing replacements if in Polywood. So they look the same aesthetically, they just have a better maintenance. I wouldn't make any of these decisions only based on maintenance.
so maintenance is out in my opinion, because they're all gonna have something, but it's negligible. It's the vandalism piece that more is the problem. Hollywood, we can, vandals can carve into it and that sort of thing, or they can melt it. Is the other thing that they do with like a lighter and that sort of thing. There's really nothing we can do to repair
We
it.
typically only have the Polywood in passive parks that are low traffic. And any recommendations for Polywood in this are for that type of use. Anything that's a high use area or active park, Polywood is not being, not something that we're putting up as a recommendation.
Do you think, and feel free to tell me no, is CDD has benches also, right? I think I know throughout their budget cycle, they're also in the process of working. Is there purchasing power in working with them potentially?
They have teak.
Yeah, they're all team.
Okay, that's right.
They got a good price for
Yeah, because my wife went out, found the benches right from China.
Okay.
The additional on this list, Oak Pond is replacing 2 missing polywood benches at 1,000. Sand Lace has 2 wood benches that are in their life that need to be replaced.
Hollywood
Polywood.
and Artisan.
Mhm.
At the bocce ball.
What do they know?
It looks really good. It's a very craftsman-y look.
It's okay.
And Springpark Playground, this is really a discussion item for the board, this item here. Springpark Playground, as we know, is heavily used.
Yeah.
Since it is open. It only formerly had the round bench around the tree, which was not returned. So replacing the former tree bench with 2 to 4 metal benches and adding concrete pads to this will be needed for all replacement benches in the area. And there's 2 current metal benches in that area that do need to be put on concrete pads as well. So this could range from 1,200 to 1,800 for the 4 to 6 concrete pad and 2,500 to 5,000 for the 2 to 4 metal benches. This just depends on really what do we want to do and how many benches do we want to add.
We need more seating.
I think they're probably enough seats.
Yeah,
I agree with the metal in the playground, absolutely.
More the better.
yeah.
Okay.
Just having been there, and as Brian even
It's a
mentioned,
busy place.
I mean, it's packed.
They will be used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's where the bench to place, because then you have the sidewalk, but then you have all the plant areas on the other side.
They would go into the planter areas.
So when you talk about they paved the walkway up to the paper pavement.
Off of the curb.
It'd be
Right
immediately.
next to it, or
oh, so you'd step off of the turf onto the bench.
Your feet would be on the turf and you could sit onto the bench and
Paint the concrete green.
slide on.
That's the money for those.
We can move to other plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a large impact into that
We
plant
could also do
space.
one on the other side of the sidewalk in some of the preserve area, because there's space for a bench right there.
And again, instead, as opposed to us micromanaging this,
Yeah.
I kind of like to let town hall say, this looks right here and this looks right there. And if it's in our budget and it's not a totally stupid idea, why not?
I move to approve.
All right, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that in a couple of weeks.
Perfect.
Let's see, let's go to paint project for Roseville Corner Town Home Service Area Reserve Fund thing.
This is just on here because it needs to be approved at your next meeting.
Okay, this needs to be approved at our next meeting. We all okay with that? Good.
with the service
They
area.
have a service.
I don't have a committee, but we have been fully engaged with the active residents and they are aware of the overage.
Committee member renter owners review.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna decide. I don't have any problem leaving on where they're at through the end of the term, but I think we should be more cognizant. Of what the owners want, which are not right now, but our covenants, finance and governance master plan. Provide those truly should be homeowner only goals, not renters.
So it, just in continuing that, then when it comes to February, March next year, when you're talking about the master committee advisory group resolution, section C of that, the composition, qualifications and membership does, currently it allows a permanent resident of Celebration who is a renter to serve on a committee. So you will need to make that amendment moving forward.
I think we should make that amendment. I mean, we are an HOA.
It makes
Because again, I
sense.
mean, with recreation, communication, lifestyle,
Okay,
and dogs aren't business.
It's a big recognition.
So wait, not only apartment renter. Yeah, now what about home renter? Should,
We can spend.
just saying,
Well,
No,
the thing is, I feel like though, like the bylaws say homeowners to be voting committee members. And if you're gonna be on a committee, I don't think it would be fair to a committee member when everyone goes to vote and then say, okay, now you don't vote because you're a renter. because this is what's in accordance with our bylaws. So I think it would just make sense to keep it consistent and just have it homeowners.
I think my challenge with it is that the only votes that really matter are ARC and covenants. Everything else is a recommendation to the board.
I think art, though, you don't have to be.
You don't,
Have
no.
to be
The
a
only,
homeowner. That's
the only
what
one
I'm-
according to thing is actually covenants. Because the ARC ones technically are based off of the guidelines. But I think to me, everything else is a recommendation that comes to the board. The board ultimately can go for or against whatever a committee wants to recommend. If we want to go against covenants or ARC, it has to be as a result of an appeal that we come back to us on. So I think that's the only hiccup in the giddy up here that we kind of have, in my opinion. So I think when we look at it from a makeup perspective, I think, yes, a committee can vote, and I think it's important for them to be able to vote amongst themselves to make a decision and that sort of thing to move things along. But ultimately, it's not a binding item until it comes to the board.
I get that. I just think it to single someone out.
Oh,
in
no,
the
I'm with
committee
you.
Because it's like, what's the point? You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, but Michael, yes, sir.
I'll just say it from here, just for a point of information, we get about $1 million a year from the renters.
In the apartments.
So recreation fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes through their rent, obviously it's priced in. So we are getting something from them. I would err on the side of potentially involving them. And it's a good way to engage them and then they can.
But what about covenants and ARC and all of those?
I think stay away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I leave that alone, but people want to invite.
On rec, maybe.
Like you said, that's kind of definitely what I was saying. When you have one person in a committee of 7, right? Again, you just have at least a voice, you have someone at the table that represents renters, and again, they're subsidizing quite a bit of our costs at the end of the day, so.
Yeah.
So then I guess the application would need to say, if we're gonna keep renters, that they know when they apply, because I don't know if they realize it, so that they go in knowing, if this committee votes, I'm not gonna be able to participate in that, because that's what the bylaws say, unless we want to change the bylaws.
We'll participate, I think it's, this American covenant to be on.
Let these guys stop.
happen.
Gary?
For years, CROA has allowed long-term renters of homes, not apartments, to participate in some of the committees. And I agree with Eric there, Mike, that probably covenants and ARC are, winners there because it involves money against homeowners. But we do have long-standing renters that have been here 10, 15 years that would love to participate because they take interest in the activities and all the things that happen in celebration. So I don't want to exclude them. They just can't vote.
So then I don't know, if I was a renter and I apply for the application and I see that I'm going on this committee, and then we get to the meeting and the committee wants to take a vote, and then someone has to single me out, I might be a little taken back. So if we want to go that route, that's fine. I'm just saying we should let them know.
It's been that way for decades. They've always been told at the beginning, sorry, you can't vote, but they want to participate in the community.
I think there's a difference between a recommendation and a decision.
yes.
So it's a fine down. The committees are a recommendation, ARC and covenants is a decision. They're making
Yes.
a decision. So I think you've got latitude there.
I don't think that this is a hill that I want to, a hill I want to die on. So.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing that I will bring up that we need to figure out, because it's coming up more and more frequently, is definition of an owner when the property is not owned by a person.
Oh, we've seen that. Yes, yes.
So when the property is owned by an LLC, when the property, I know trusts are a little bit easier because typically there's a name. We have more and more properties that are being owned by an LLC. And so technically the LLC is supposed to designate who is acting on behalf of the LLC in these cases. But that's coming up more and more.
We need to know how to, because of a lot of corporate ownership too of We need,
Yeah, we have.
Right,
they have a process.
So
Yeah.
you look like the articles of incorporation,
Yeah.
like, so you look at like who's
If
authorized to sign.
Managing partner in the LLC, then
yeah.
it's fine. Otherwise, then we would
You had
ask.
some where,
Yeah, then otherwise, then we would ask the LLC to designate them as their representative for participating in.
In CROA. Okay,
Or like if in a trust, if there's two equal trustees, then we ask that the trust, write a letter saying we designate this person as our representative.
right,
and in the spirit of ending by 8 PM, which is always my goal, we're moving on to letter K, Charles, open houses conversation.
So we had a communications committee meeting a couple of days ago, and one of the topics that came up, Linda, was the open house posts that have been made up on the town hall page on Facebook. And I know Janine, the chair, had received some feedback from residents around some concerns, because it's new, seeing open house listings on the town hall Facebook page. I heard some as well. And we got into a little bit of conversation that seems to be a new process. So we get into some conversation, and it sounds like I wanted to bring it to the board because it sounds like we're collecting $20 also for potentially. So if you want to add a little more color based on the meeting, because I think there were some things that caught me off guard for sure.
Yes, and more feel free to step in. So previously, if you wanted your house on our town hall listings form, it was a $15 fee. That fee has recently increased to $20. We had some pushback on the $20 by these listing agents, asking what are they getting for their $20 input. A solution that was proposed was that they can be promoted on social media. That has, with our new communications manager, also working in our social media strategy, that's why we started to see those going out. It was discussed in actually before the meeting, because we also have heard some slight feedback, and then responding to them that this is a paid in that usually would help. Like, oh, okay, it's not just we're selecting, any type of thing to put on our social media page. So it was already noted that any future ones would have a line saying have opportunities to have this on or have this on the page, can reach out here, basically insinuating that this is a paid feature.
sure, sponsored, right.
That was going planned. It was noted in the communications committee meeting that let's move that from the bottom of any of the description to the top of the description. There's also parameters on these posts. It cannot have their logo. It is limited to one image. It is something that and it was even proposed in the committee that it's open to change. It was something that it's tried. We can look at changing it. And it was even discussed, maybe we don't put it on that platform, or we just put a little more structure around it.
I think the open house list isn't new. That's been here forever.
On the town hall Facebook, in the magazine, we've always.
The magazine and the sheet that you could pick up at
Yeah.
building, all that sort of thing. So I think the concept isn't new. We're just looking at it's a new channel
Yes.
that's being used.
I think the thing that I was surprised about, so, and maybe this is my not paying attention, the fact that we collect 50, and I don't need to know, who established the $5 increase? Because that didn't come before. Like, how did that all come about?
I was not aware of the
And when did so I guess what's the history of that? Is there any?
I was not aware of the $5 increase.
I'll have to look into that. They're probably.
And I guess how many of these, I guess where I'm going with that, I wanted to have some discussion, is how much revenue are we getting from that too? And is that potentially a decent source of revenue for us? Just have some discussion.
No, it's not going to cover a bench.
No, only can cover a bench. Motion to
Maybe a
adjourn.
3-gallon, but
Motion to adjourn.
so hang on. Are we the open house one?
Agenda with why the monetary change and how many a month that we're doing.
The only reason I'm asking is because we found through the rec committee, like, we hadn't looked at the rental fees for 10, 15 years. And I just want to make sure again, looking at this, where did we get this? What's the history? how much are we getting from it?
I think it's been, I know it was 15 for a long time. It's similar to your ID cards have been $10 for a long time. So those are probably things that should be up for discussion.
And it's the board that establishes that, that's where it is.
The payment is truly just to be on the website, not anything to do with social media
Well,
currently.
but it's on the Facebook page, on the town on Facebook.
If I put $20 in, what do I get?
Yeah, and we were in agreement in that committee that, and they are working on a structure, on a plan to put more structure around.
Like a feature,
We
like
get.
a feature on the house, conceivably, should
But yeah.
fit more into it, right?
But that's the thing where if you take collecting $20 from everyone, how do you say which one gets featured at which time and all that kind of stuff? So you're opening a whole can of worms that we don't need to be part of. So you pay $20, you get on the website, that's all we have right now. If you want to put something together for the website, is that an added feature? Is there something else? Figure that out and come back to us.
I would, additional note to be made on this by the committee as well, that those posts, there's only been 2 posts from them, did extremely well.
Forget it.
$40.
Look at you there.
What's the potential income? What's the potential
I'll
income?
get the information, but in the meantime.
$150 payment.
That's a 7 gallon.
If only they get us all $40. All right.
Well, we'll get the data.
So we'll get the numbers, we'll put some structure and then it can be communicated out.
Yes, structure itself.
Did you move to adjourn? Oh, somebody's speaking. What?
I'll second an adjournment.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Jared. That was it.